Hey guys, Angus here. Today I'll be bringing you a video review of the G&G Armament F2000 Airsoft AEG. Alright, now the first question you guys are probably asking is, where can I purchase this gun? Well, there's a link down below in the description to AirsoftStation.com, Deathcore Airsoft sponsor, where you can purchase this gun for about $350. Now some of you are probably wondering, where's the usual starting off of the review with the gun's packaging? Well, I actually purchased this as a refurbished model, therefore I didn't get everything that would normally come with the gun if you were to buy it brand new. Plus, the inside of the box was absolutely in shambles, so if you do buy a refurbished one of these, watch the inside of your box. My gray styrofoam was cracked and shattered to pieces in there. But in case you're wondering, the stuff you get with the gun, at least what I got, will be a standard manual, an unjamming rod, a small Allen key, as well as a bright orange muzzle cap. Otherwise, we really don't care too much about the packaging. It'll come in a standard cardboard box, and being this is licensed by Cybergun, that box is covered with pictures and a bunch of specs, as well as an overrated high FPS that is chrono with .12 gram BBs. In case you're wondering, the gun shoots around 350 FPS with .2 gram BBs. Now let's go ahead and hop into the external construction of the G&G Armament F2000. This is a very solidly put together gun. I've always found G&G to have some very nice externals to them, and the F2000 here is certainly no exception. It's basically entirely made of polymer. There are only a couple metal pieces on this gun, those including the included 450 round M4 magazine, your rear sight, 20mm top rail, front sight, and outer barrel, as well as the exposed metal portion shown at the front of the AEG. The rest of the gun is made of a very solid and high quality polymer component. And frankly, the gun feels rather nice in your hands. It's a little bit fatter than most normal rifles. It kind of gives it a little bit more bulk. However, in total, it weighs maybe 7 or 8 pounds. So definitely not too hefty, and its short size make it a very nice and maneuverable gun. Another nice touch are the FN Herstal Trademarks provided by Cybergun, being this gun is licensed by Cybergun, that I'll show you again in a few minutes. They definitely add a nice touch, nothing for performance, but do look rather nice on the AEG. Internal quality, G&G is a higher end gun manufacturer, therefore we know the internals in the gun are pretty darn solid quality. I've never really had any issues with G&G internals. It's a standard metal gearbox, metal gears. I had a couple issues, but we'll cover those in later portions of the review. So overall, the externals on the gun are great. Solid polymer construction makes the gun lightweight and maneuverable, and the internals are pretty darn good as they are G&G. Let's take a look at those trademarks. Now the view you're currently seeing is of the gun's left side, which is basically the conglomeration of the trademarks on the gun. Those bright white combination of letters and numbers would be, I believe, a unique serial number located on the side of the rear sight. Moving downward under the actual buttstock of the weapon, we have a rather large engraved trademark reading FN Herstal Belgium F2000 caliber 6mm. Below that on the magazine well, we have the FN logo, as well as engraved and also painted in bright white, licensed by FN Herstal. That logo is repeated on the opposite side of the rifle as well. Now hopping straight into some features of the F2000 here, one of the most important things to me on a gun is its battery space. I want to know A, can I house a large battery? And B, can I change the battery quickly in the field should it be needed in a game? Now the F2000's battery compartment is located in its large buttstock. However, the battery space isn't exactly as spacious as you might expect. Being this is a bullpup style gun, the gearbox is housed in the back and basically takes up this whole upper portion here. Therefore, your battery space is quite limited. In order to access your battery compartment, you do need to remove the gun's butt plate. Normally this is pretty simple, you simply pop it off. However, I think G&G was really scared players are going to lose their butt plates because this thing's pretty darn well attached on there and actually pretty difficult to get on and off. When you want to remove the butt plate, I recommend peeling up the rubber padding on the back like so, and at that point, forcing it off like so. You do actually have to apply a decent amount of force, just be careful you don't send it flying off there. Once you remove the butt plate, simply set it down to the side. Your battery compartment is now revealed. As you can see, you can also see your small type Tamiya connector, which is what this gun comes with. Battery space, as I mentioned, very limited. It's a rather small, slender area located underneath the gearbox and motor. Batteries you can house in here, the one I currently have installed is an 8.4 volt 1100 milliamp small type battery. That's about as big a battery as you can go. You could probably also squeeze a slender 9.6 volt nunchuck style battery in there, or more likely what most players are going to use, a 7.4 volt LiPo. So battery space on the gun, definitely a bit limited. When you do have your battery installed, you can go ahead and slide your butt plate back on. This is actually a little bit more difficult than getting it off because you have to line the ridges up exactly in order to get it to lock into place. You also have to apply even more force to get it to go down all the way. So sorry if it does look like it's a little bit odd on camera. Eventually though, you will get it in place. Being the butt plate's so hard to get on, battery space changing in the field isn't exactly that easy, but it certainly could be done. Alright, now another key feature on your F2000 would be its fire selector switch, which is both reminiscent of an AUG and a P90. Now the fire selector switch is located directly under the trigger, as we'd see with a P90, and it's sort of that kind of plate thing that you twist around the bottom of the trigger in order to lock it into the different positions. The different firing positions are painted rather nicely and also slightly engraved on the trigger so that you know which selection you're on. First selection is safe, upon which the trigger cannot be pulled. If you were to flip it over slightly onto the 1, the gun is on semi-automatic, and each time the trigger is pulled, the trigger will slide back halfway and fire 1 BB. Now if you were to flip it onto the very last section, which is marked with an A for auto, the gun is now on full auto. And it's here that the trigger kind of turns into an AUG style trigger. If you were to pull it back halfway, the gun would still fire semi-automatic. However, if you were to pull it back all the way, the gun would fire on full auto. So on the auto setting, you do have the AUG style trigger of pulling back halfway for semi and all the way back for full. It's also on here that an internal problem I mentioned earlier comes into play. A lot of the times with those style of triggers, eventually the cutoff lever kind of goes, and I believe you lose your full auto. I actually know someone who owned an F2000 that occurred with, and they've had nothing but problems ever since. I don't know if it'll happen on every one, certainly hasn't happened on mine yet, but it is something to watch out for. Although the trigger might seem convenient on that auto setting, it can get messed up eventually. Now another key feature on the G&G F2000 would be its magazine, because of course that's where your ammo is stored. Now in order to eject the magazine out of the gun, you want to push in the large black magazine release located just in front of the magazine itself. When you push this in, be prepared to catch the mag because it does slide right out. The included magazine is a G&G Armament 450 round metal high capacity M4 style magazine. Works just like a standard high cap, being wound by the gear at the bottom, at which point the BBs will feed through the top. You also fill your reservoir of BBs at the top as well. It does rattle like your regular high cap though. However, you do get the advancement of holding 450 rounds. Now this magazine fits inside the gun like a glove, which is something all mags can't say. I tested this thing out with some ICS high caps as well as the included G&G mag, and they all worked fine. King Arm's mid-capacity magazines though did not work in the gun. They require a modification to the top lip of them in order to be able to fit and feed in the gun properly. Therefore, if you're buying this gun, milsim player, you want to use mid-caps, not the best idea, being that probably those mags are going to have to require some modification to use in this gun. G&G does make special mid-caps for it though, if you wanted to use it. A pro of this gun taking M4 mags is the fact that, well, on most airsoft fields out there today, players are using M4 variants. Therefore, if you run out of ammo, somebody's bound to have a spare mag for you. When you want to place the magazine back in the gun, take it feeding lip forward, place it into the mag well like so, hear that nice, reassuring clack, and you're ready to go. Now iron sights wise, naturally the F2000 is going to be equipped with iron sights. Your rear sight is a flip up sight. Currently in the flip down position, if you wanted to flip it up, simply take your fingernail, flip it up like so. It's really nothing special. It is adjustable for windage. However, it's simply a pinhole aperture that you look through to line up with your equally exciting front sight. Front sight's really nothing special either. It's just a sight post located between those two ridges, as I prefer to call them. And it is adjustable for elevation. You can simply take your fingers, twist it to lower it or raise it up so that it's equal with your rear sight. Now these iron sights are removable, at least the front sight is. You can simply completely unscrew that and remove it, and the rear sight of course is flip down. So you can go ahead and make access of your rather long 20mm rail located up top. You can mount any optic on there, and really that's the only customization you get with this gun, other than if you wanted to remove the plastic flash hider and mount a 14mm counterclockwise threaded suppressor or other black flash hider on the gun. So the iron sights, they're alright, they're your standard iron sights, plus you get that big old rail up there so you can go ahead and really customize this gun. Maybe a nice low profile red dot or EOTech would really look nice on this replica. Now the final feature we have to talk about on the G&G F2000 would be the gun's hop-up unit. Now unlike most other AEGs, the hop-up unit isn't accessed by pulling the rifle's charging handle back. Charging handle does no function at all, just there for cosmetic purposes. The F2000's hop-up unit is actually located under a small hatch behind the rear sight. When you flip open the hatch, like so, you will reveal your gun's hop-up unit. Now the F2000's hop-up unit, in truth, I found to be pretty good. Added some nice range and spin on the BBs, give them a little bit more accuracy when they're sending them out there. I really recommend .25s for this gun. However, I did have a few grievances with the gun's hop-up unit. Number one, a couple times when I was shooting on full auto, I had some BBs roll out of the barrel, showing me that there might be some feeding issues there, a couple issues with the hop-up. Second off, it's great they put it behind this little hatch. Really cool, really neat little feature. However, makes it much more difficult to actually adjust to the hop-up. Even for me, who has medium-sized hands, it's really hard to squeeze my fingers in there and be able to turn that gear, which is rather tough and stiff to turn. So those of you with larger hands, adjusting the hop-up on this gun might actually be pretty difficult. In fact, I actually had to use a small tip of a flathead screwdriver to really get that gear turning, because at first it was so stiff, barely wanted to turn. But overall, pretty darn good hop-up. Alright, now over the past 10 minutes or so, we've went ahead and covered pretty much everything about the G&G Armament F2000. So let's go ahead and get into the final conclusion. Now this is certainly not a gun that will appeal to everyone. Main reason? Because of its price tag. $350 is what you gotta pay to get a rather nice high quality airsoft AEG, but frankly, let's be honest, some people just can't afford that. Another reason it might not appeal to some players is, I will consent, it looks like a giant black fish. Anyway, it is a good gun though, quite a few pros to it. Number one, I neglected to mention this earlier, it does not only come in the black coloring, also in a dark earth or tan coloring, so if you wanted to run this with your woodland loadout you can, or your desert loadout you can do that as well. Get a rather nice external construction, made of polymer, solid gun, feels great, nice, light, maneuverable. Get solid G&G internals with an adjustable FPS system, can lower it and raise it from the 350 mark. You also get some pretty cool features on the gun, such as its compatibility with M4 magazines, a nice P90/AUG style trigger, and also nice 20mm rail up top so you can go ahead, customize the gun a little bit, mount an optic on there. Cons though, the gun does have a few. Number one, I can't stand the fact that I need to modify my King Arms mid-caps to fit in this thing. I hate modifying my stuff for special cases, so I'll probably just stick to using high caps. Really not a big deal, but if you're a Milsim player, it sucks to have to go by the G&G mid-caps because this isn't compatible with the other companies. Also, a couple issues with the gun internally. You do have that possible cutoff lever issue where, you lose your full auto because the AUG style triggers always do that. Eventually, after time, they break down. Another internal issue, hop-up unit, I wasn't too fond of it. It did its job. It got the BBs out there pretty accurately with a little extra spin, but just too tight to get my hand in here, especially when I have it gloved in the field. And also, gear was very, very hard to turn at first, and still kind of is. Another issue with the replica that I figured I'd go ahead and point out would be its battery space. As I mentioned earlier, it's a little too tight for me. I don't care for it when I can't house a big old large type battery in there. Give me a lot of milliamp and a lot of power. But respectively, battery space isn't too bad. Where would this gun be suited for? Really anywhere. It's a bullpup style gun, so you get a rather long inner barrel. As I mentioned, has an adjustable FPS system. So really, you can find it anywhere. Might be good in CQB, certainly the size too, nice and maneuverable, or even out here in the woodland environment, I frankly think it might be suited a little bit better. It's a semi-original gun, suffers from that I think it'll be original effect, where everybody thinks no one else will have that, they all buy it, and then everybody has them. Seen quite a few on the fields, this not being the first I've seen. But overall, it's a pretty darn cool gun, and frankly, if you're looking for something, as I stated, semi-original, the G&G Armament F2000 might be the gun for you. That is, if you have something against giant black fish, it certainly isn't for you. So thanks for watching, guys. This has been Deathcore Airsoft's review of the G&G Armament F2000, licensed by Cybergun with FN Herstal Trades. If you have any questions, simply ask down below in the comments, and also link down below in the description to airsoftstation.com where you can purchase it. So thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe.